Hello everybody, welcome back to the World of Wraith YouTube channel. I got with you guys 3 more things I wish I knew starting earlier in Flesh and Blood. Now, Flesh and Blood is a complex game with a lot of different heroes who play a lot of different ways. One of the things that it's going to be hard to get a grasp on, but is very important, is understanding how your opponent's deck plays. Now, even though there's different ways to build heroes, it's often good to just have a little baseline idea of what each hero wants to do. Of course, the more you play, the more you'll start understanding these heroes. But quick examples that I wanted to go down is a very popular hero like Jarl. He has his armory deck, so you can expect a lot of players to be playing him. He mainly wants to break your equipment to be able to get his ability off to make frostbites. So stopping cards like Mangle can be one of your key game plans when playing against him. That way, he can't destroy your armor, and also realizing he wants your armor to be destroyed so he can create frostbites. It also make you prioritize not just giving him your armor and just having it be destroyed. If you have a lot of armor that is blade break and it's just going to destroy it when you defend with it, even if you're getting good value, you might have to really think, is it worth giving him my armor here and getting an exposed equipment slot? Another very popular hero is Aurora, who often plays cards that are 0 for 4, making her average turns have a ton of value. The way that many decks have been countering her is by playing defensive 0 for 4s. So when you're playing against an Aurora, if you're not trying to raise her, it might be a good idea to put in a couple D-Reacts. I've seen decks running 12 D-Reacts. So if you have a bunch of 0 for 4s defensively, you're going to be able to counteract her strategy of 0 for 4s offensively. Another not as popular hero, but I think she should never be underestimated, is Prism. The main cards when playing against Prism are her cards of Erudition. Soraya, the Archangel of Erudition, and Herald of Erudition both let her draw 2. I would say whenever she flips her Figment of Erudition and turns it into a Soraya, your number one priority should be to kill the Soraya Archangel. If this thing stays on the board and just gives her 2 cards every turn from attacking, she's gonna just go so much advantage. She's gonna snowball. Your number one priority should be to get rid of this angel once she does summon her. Likewise, Herald of Erudition, if she's attacking you with it, you want to stop this. It has Dominate, so it's probably going to demand an equipment in the card, but often people give too much equipment to Prism's regular angel attacks. I usually think it's best to save it for Herald of Erudition, because if this hits, just like the other Erudition card, it lets her draw 2. And she can use those 2 cards to just start snowballing. So, very important. Kill the Angel of Erudition, the Archangel of Erudition, and don't let Herald of Erudition hit. Heroes like Syndra that run Mask of Momentum, Flick Knives. Well, very unique to Syndra, she uses these in tandem together. Being able to, as many of you should know now, Syndra's been around and making waves in the competitive scene. Her 3rd chain link, even if it gets blocked out, if you do Flick Knives, it keeps that Mask of Momentum alive. So her 4th chain link, if it hits, it's gonna count and Mask of Momentum will draw. Cards like Calming Breeze, or even cards that can guarantee you to stop the 4th chain link, like Sink Below, can really help out against this strategy. Now note, you're going to have to stop the 3rd and 4th chain link due to Flick Knives, so it's probably going to be worth to give her a card on the 3rd chain link and then Sink Below on the 4th chain link. Or if you have a card like Calming Breeze, you can simply Calming Breeze in response to the Flick Knives. The knife won't consider to be hit, and that way the Mask of Momentum will no longer be active since, the knife never hit. Just make sure you block out that 3rd chain link. Heroes like Florian can get a lot of value in the late game. He can turn any blue into 5 value, and it's going to be mixed. 2 of it coming from Grasp, and 3 of it coming from Reaping Blade. So 1 card 5 that sends mixed damage can be pretty powerful. So against heroes like Florian, you often want to avoid going to the late game. Of course, their deck wants to go to the late game and will play very defensively. So keeping the game early, trying to get as much advantage as you can early, and try to finish them off before they get to the late game, or just finish them off during the late game. Maybe you pushed really hard in the beginning, you want to set up some really big turns to go through their defenses, and then you want to close out the game in the late game. Because if you start grinding out with Florian, chances are he's going to outvalue you with 1 card 5s. At worst case, 1 card 5s, and he can also do other plays. Much like Florian, Fang is a deck that wants to go late game. Once he gets his 3 fealties online and he's able to swing his daggers for free, I think he becomes the best value deck in the game. I don't think anybody has as good numbers as Fang. So a quick example to kind of counter him, it's, let's say you're Mark and he hits you with a Forward Drakai and he has a fealty. As soon as he attacks you, he's going to make a second fealty. If the Forward Drakai hits, he's going to get a third fealty, and he's going to be able to start his turn with free dagger swings. It might be very important to block out the Forward Drakai. Even if you're going to stay marked, you're going to save yourself a whole turn that he's going to have free daggers. So blocking this little on hit that just makes a fealty, might not be anything crazy, but giving him free daggers is super crazy. So you gotta look at the big picture. It's not just make a fealty on hit. In this case, if he already has 2 and he hits you and he gets his 3rd fealty, the on hit represents free daggers for the rest of the game as long as he can keep his fealties up. Next up, another big tip I got for you guys is understanding tricks. Now, what do I mean by tricks? There's, of course, as many of us know, there's attack reactions in the games, but there's also instants like Lightning Press and Angelic Wrath. Sometimes you can play around these tricks by knowing what your opponent's deck is capable of. Take, for example, Guardians. They don't play a lot of tricks. At most, you can expect 3 Pommel Reds. Maybe you'll see the blues and yellows, but not very often. Now, let's say they send an attack at you. They have 1 resource floating and 1 card in hand. Even if it is a Pommel costs 2 to cast. So you shouldn't have to worry about any tricks in these types of scenarios. But things can get really tricky when they have 2 floating, or when they have a Tunic on 3 and 1 floating. Then you gotta start thinking, how can I play around Pommel? Can I even play around Pommel? So knowing the tricks can be a key to understanding the matchup, but oftentimes there's tricks that you can't really account for too much. A card like Ancestral Empowerment, just giving your ninja attack +1 and drawing a card can be a lot harder to play around, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Unlike Guardians who want to push on hits and crush effects, ninjas don't really have many on hits. One of their few on hits that they do have is Mask of Momentum. So you can often expect the 3rd chain link, if they do have an Ancestral Empowerment, to be done on the 3rd chain link so they can, use their trick to get the Mask of Momentum trigger. Cards like Sink Below, being able to fully block a 4, maybe they're sending a 3 attack at you, you say no blocks, and then you use Sink on reaction step. Even if they Ancestral pump it by 1 and make that 3 attack 4 attack, the Sink Below will perfectly cover it. Or cards like Haunting Rendition and Calming Breeze that let you prevent damage can be done in the reaction step. If you block 3 on 3, they pump it, and then in response, you use one of these cards to prevent the damage, completely shutting down their Mask of Momentum. Now, when it gets a lot trickier is with these decks that are made to do tricks. Decks like Assassins and Warriors. We have decks like Nu and even Arachne that play Shreds that can lower your defensive values. We have decks like Nu that has the access to Mystic reactions, as well as one of the best just to nick assassins in the game. We have decks like Dory that punish you for blocking from cards to your hand, as well as a ton of different attack reactions. We have decks like Fang that likes to play Draconic Instants and very powerful pumps like Hunt's End that can essentially, with the way that his daggers work, it's a 1 card 5. Now, one of the best ways to learn what these decks do is go to Fabrary, check out some of the deck lists for these heroes. If you're playing a lot of Fangs at your locals, it's a good idea to go to Fabrary, check some of the deck lists, see what's commonly being played. Same thing for like the Assassins. Having a little idea of what the deck list looks like is a great way to start fighting these matchups. Often these heroes like Warriors and Assassins can be some of the hardest matchups for new players. Another tip is check the graveyard. Often you'll see the attack reactions they've used in the graveyard. Now, let's take for this example, we're playing against a new. She has 2 Justinik and 2 Venomous Bites in the graveyard. We know she has 1 Justinik left, 1 Venomous Bite left, and probably 3 hits. So this is something I see a lot of players not doing. The graveyard's always available to you. Just ask your opponent, hey, can I see your graveyard? Anytime they send an attack with a powerful on-hit, make a good habit of checking the graveyard so you can try to account for what reactions they might play. Now, in tandem with checking their graveyard, think about how many resources they have floating or if they have cards in hand, because often really good reactions cost a certain amount of resources. Cards like Overpowered cost 3, so if they have 1 card in hand and they're attacking you with a sword, it can't be a card like Overpowered, but that can be the 0-cost Blade Flurry. And last, keep in mind what they're pitching. Oftentimes there's blue reactions that get pitched for the late game or just to fit their resource curve, but sometimes you will see red cards being pitched. So having a little mental note of the resources that are in the bottom of the deck can be very big to help you evaluate what attack reaction could be coming. And using this along with the other tips of checking the graveyard, thinking about what resources, and think about what cards they've been pitching. So if you know some of the attack reactions in the bottom, they're not going to be in their hand. When you put these 3 together with time and practice, you're going to be able to defeat these decks. It's just going to take a lot of time and practice, as I mentioned. Now, the best way to get practice is on Talishar.net. I see many people not playing Talishar, only play at their LGSs, which is great. Flesh and Blood is meant to be played in person, but Talishar is such a great tool to try out decks that maybe you don't own. Before you buy that big Command and Conquer, maybe you can try it on Talishar first, see how good it is, if you really want to purchase it. And just getting more reps in with different heroes, against different heroes. Maybe at your LGS, you always play the same Dorinthia player, the same Bravo player, the same new player, and you don't really get to experience all the other heroes that are in this game. Talishar will give you a great, not optimal, because of course a lot of people in Talishar are just learning or playing for fun, but it'll give you a great sense of the other heroes and what they can do. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you guys like this type of content, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let me know down below how long have you been playing Flesh and Blood. Peace.